You guys hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Mhm.
Welcome to the Trails Committee meeting on April 5th, calling the meeting to order at 7:33. When I call your name, let me know that you're here. Satyendra Sharma,
Yes, I'm here.
Tom McCoolier,
Here.
Isabella Bogdansky,
Here.
and Kat McKee here. Thank you all. Let the minutes reflect that Sam Stivers is in the visitors, is visiting.
Yes.
Okay, so first order of business is approve the minutes from March 24th. I was a little delayed in getting those out. Thank you, Sati, for drafting. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at them, or would you like me to pull them up?
March 27th.
27th, yes.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm also good.
okay. Great. So if everything is good, then does someone want to make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, Tom moved. Someone want a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bella. All in favor, Satyendra Sharma,
Yes.
Isabella Bogdansky,
Yes.
Tom McCoolier,
Yes.
and Kat McKee. Yes, great. Thank you all. Okay, next up is the DCR MOA Trails Agreement status update. So we had last time talked about that we added that one trail segment off of the Walnut Hill Trail off of Bigelow. That was sent to DCR with no updates from that yet. The lawyers are looking at that over. So any questions? Okay. Next up, Peninsula Trail Phase 1 Mass Trails Grant Project update. So we now have a finalized building permit, and we have the vendor. I put them in touch with, actually, I connected with them to talk about the parking to make sure that they were in touch with DPW and DPW would know where the gate was going, so that when the parking spots get placed out or built out, that if they do it first, then, coordination. So it turns out, DPW they did a site visit and staked out the location of where they're putting the parking based on our conversations. So any fence was supposed to go out last Saturday and mark the pavement where they were going to put the gate. And any fence did indicate that it might be easier for DPW if DPW were to do the parking first, because they would have, without having a gate there, they would have freer range to move equipment around and such. So I did share that with DPW and let them determine how they want to proceed with that schedule. I sketched out, based on our kickoff meeting with DPW and everyone, the site location. And I asked DPW to share with us the information the conservation agent, Melissa Danza, needed in order to determine if we would need to meet with the commission or if we needed to extend our work order of conditions. And so basically we just described the type of work they're doing. They're just moving the top of the vegetation, the soil. They're not bringing any soil in. There are no tree removals. It's pretty straightforward. And so as a result, and they're using gravel for the surface. And so as a result, they're we don't need to update the work order conditions, and we're in good shape. So we have sign off for that. So I'd asked AnyFence if they could send me an updated invoice, because we are not removing the access gate anymore. And we had a spec change on our fence. We no longer need the barbed wire at the top, which is great. So the expense should come down. So I've asked for an updated invoice, but we've not yet received it. And what I was hoping we could do is have that updated invoice for tonight's meeting so that we could approve it. So since we don't have that, and I want to make sure we can go ahead and issue a purchase order so that when any fence is ready to go, all the paperwork is in place. They've already been set up as a vendor in town, so half of that work has been done. So I would like to ask the committee if you're comfortable, if the invoice comes in, and I think that it's reasonable based on our initial quote and what it's coming in at should be less than what we had originally. And I can talk to Tim Davis at Recreation to make sure he sees, and doesn't see any red flags. Would the committee be comfortable taking a vote to allow me to approve that invoice and that we move it through the purchase order process before our next meeting to keep the ball rolling?
I'll make a motion that if the invoice comes in as specified by you, that we approve it.
That you're okay with Catherine
Yes,
approving it based, yeah.
yes,
And if the price goes up or if there's significant changes and deviations from what we initially talked about, then I will put it on pause.
yeah, agreed.
Okay. Does someone want a second?
I can second.
Thank you. Let's do a vote. Satyendra Sharma,
Yes.
Tom McCoolier,
Yes,
Isabella Bogdansky,
Yes.
and Kami Key. Great. Thank you all. So that's exciting, getting that started. I understand from Any Fence that it would be in a few weeks, couple weeks. So we were waiting on that schedule update from them, which should come soon. Should come with the invoice. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I sent out the abutter letter. I just emailed you guys the abutter letter. And Sati, for the record, for the minutes, can you indicate that we'll attach the abutter letter
Okay.
and include that as an part of the minutes? And so this was a similar letter we had sent out in April of 2021, just letting them know that the trail was going to be opened in probably 2022. So this letter confirms that it is open and that work will start in the next couple weeks. We invited them to reach out with any questions or concerns, and also if they wanted to be a part of the Adopt Trail program, that they could work with us and keep an eye on the trail, any usage issues or other issues that come up. They could, be a part of that. So those went out on, what day was it? Tuesday. So, we may or may not hear back. And we did just select the most immediate neighbors that would be closest to the trail. And in the future, we'll check in to see if we need to do a broader mass mailing, but I think more of a public announcement, with the town, once the trail's kind of, the project is closer to being finished or even finished, that might be when we do the announcements more broadly. So we can kind of make little announcements here and there as we hit milestones, and that will help keep people updated.
Mhm.
Any thoughts, questions on that? Okay, so next up is SPAC, and really there's no new update. I just need to create a one-page or a quick document for SPAC to review based on our conversation of how we may spend if they do have an extra $1,000 or whatever the amount was that they were looking to donate towards the project or commit towards the project. And we had talked about using that, and it was noted in the minutes, possibly expanding some Bluetooth capabilities to the signage to perhaps help visually impaired people. So we'll look into that. So that should happen in the next week. And I already met with Bill, so to help explain what other things we could use it for, and if they need us to attend a future meeting, we'll attend. So we'll see. But they tend to meet in person at 9 a.m. on Tuesdays, so that can be a little bit tricky to meet. So we'll see. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. Peninsula Trail Phase 2 bid status update. So Sati, I don't know if you know, but, and Bella. So Tom and I and Will, we called a meeting. It was an open, we had a public meeting, so we'll have minutes at the next session, but we did not receive a bid for, no one bid on the project. So we were disappointed. There was one bidder that came to the site visit that was mandatory. And we were.
When was
hoping-
that?
What?
When was that meeting?
Yesterday.
Oh, yesterday. Okay, so that I can put a date here. Right?
4/4 at 10 a.m. And so we were hoping we'd get a bid, we did. So during our meeting yesterday, we talked to Tim Davis and Melanie, the procurement officer, about some options. And so I'll run through some options, and we've made some phone calls, so we have a couple updates. And then we'll decide as a committee how we'd like to move forward. We need to talk about getting some feedback too. So basically, Tim thought that we might try taking some of breaking the project down, taking out the natural earth surface trail, because that's something we can easily do. Nothing's easy, but we could do separate. And the big thing is the boardwalk and the bridge. And he also recommended that we consider getting a quote for the engineering services that are needed for the bridge and the boardwalk. And if we could, there is an opportunity to get a quote from VHB, who's an existing contractor with the town. And what we would do is have them draw up the plans, have all of that assessment taken care of, and then go to bid again. And this time we'd be looking for someone to be the contractor to install the bridge. And it simplifies the project. It's a little more straightforward, and that might be more appealing to contractors. So I reached out to DPW, Abdul, and asked, Abdul is not in the office until Monday. So I talked to the staff and then said, I explained what we were trying to do and that we wanted to contact VHB, and they just double checked that nothing was going to be paid for by DPW. And I said, yes, that's correct. So I reached out to our contact at VHB, Greg Russell, and I've talked to him about this project before. And he also is the one that worked with us on getting the crosswalk quotes. So he had some familiarity with the project, and they do this work. So I will send him a project overview and try to do a site visit for next week, early next week. And then they'll need about a week or so to turn around a quote. And so what that means is we're gonna, before we decide to go to bid again, and let's talk about this as a committee. Some of us have, but the rest of us haven't. Before we go to bid again, we want to see if this approach will make sense. And then if it sheds any light on how we come up with how we change the bid, essentially. So I'll stop there. I have some other information on that, but I want to just entertain that idea and see if anyone has any questions or Tom, do you have anything else you want to add based on our meeting yesterday and what we learned?
So I'm just going to summarize what Catherine said is two options we have going forward. No one bidded on it. So we changed the scope and send it back out there, which we didn't feel it was a high probability that, someone will bid on it. So the second one, and the one that she spent some time talking about, is let's do the engineering for the bridge and or the bog. And that way there, the engineering firm, and she mentioned the town uses one, VHB or VHR. VHB. We can actually have them give us a whole engineering blueprint, including, where to purchase the materials and all that stuff, and then go out to bid. So that eliminates the unknowns about the bridge itself. We actually have an engineered design approved. Now go build it. A type of proposal going out there the second time. That, and we don't have any real hard evidence the bridge was the sticking point. But if you think of the whole project, earthen trails, a bog bridge, which is very, very common.
It's not a bog bridge, it's a pedestrian footbridge and boardwalk. You keep
Okay, thank
changing the words bog bridge, which means something really different.
Pedestrian bridge over the vernal pools, and the
It's
bridge
not a
itself.
vernal pool. You're stepping in all sorts of trouble tonight, Tom. It's not a vernal pool for the rest.
Okay, so here's the thing. So what is out of the scope? And if it is out of the scope in the first pass, do we bring it again and bid again for the rest of the things, or this is something that has gone off the scope, is gone?
Right, that we would take care of it because we can contract directly with VHB because there's an existing town contract. So then we get the plans drawn up as, you know, the town, you know, the Trails Committee will procure the services through VHB. We'll get a couple of other quotes to make sure it's the right ballpark that we're, you know, that the price is right. And then we would do the engineering plans separate. We would take those plans, put it in a new bid, and then go to bid and look for someone who will help implement that. You know,
Would it impact the cost?
Yes, yes, big time. Or it could be out of our scope, our budget. So we don't know how much it's going to cost to do that plan. That's why we're going to ask for a quote. And the quote process and the site visit does not cost any money. So VHB will spend some time putting together a quote for us so we can understand what the magnitude of that is, the cost, right? And if the cost is within our budget, then we will put the bid on hold because it's going to take them, say, a month or more. That's an imaginary timeline to be determined. They'll have to put that plan together, and then we take that plan, put it in the bid, and go out to bid and say, who can put this together for us, right? Who can put together the boardwalk and the footbridge? So that that's one option. The other option is, so one step I didn't say, Tom, I didn't mean to interrupt. Did you have,
that's
you
fine.
wanted to say something else? So we want to get feedback on what happened. So we asked Tim and Melanie if we could reach out in the form of either a quick Survey Monkey or a Microsoft Forms and ask why in some form. So we want to talk a little bit about how we want to structure that question. And we're not looking for 5 to 10 questions. We want a couple questions like what specifically, why didn't you bid on the project? What was it about the project that caused you not to put in a proposal? And I'm specifically interested in the one that showed up because they had enough interest to show up, and then something happened between the time they showed up and the submission date that they didn't pull the trigger. So if we know that, then we will be better positioned to understand how to shape the bid, revise the bid in a way that will be addressing some of those concerns. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I have a quick question.
Please.
Have we talked to any contractors directly about the proposal that we have for hiring a contractor? Like just running it by someone just to see like what they think personally from their own experience, instead of maybe doing like a Survey Monkey? I mean, I definitely think that's a great idea, but I was just wondering like if we've actually like talked to someone who.
No, I think you're onto something, because that's exactly what I wanted to do, is pick up the phone and talk to Sumco and say, hey, because they picked up the phone and talked to me. So I'd like to pick up the phone and say, talk to them. But when you say, who did you mean to reach out to, Isabella? Do you mean someone who's familiar with that type of project outside of the bidders, that's just familiar with it? Or what were you thinking?
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know too much about this line of work, but I don't know, just someone who's like familiar with the general scope of things.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And, you know, one idea that we had that fits within that bucket is reaching out to Conservation Works, who we had consulted on about this project, right? And he had provided some guidance when we were putting together our Mass Trails project, and see if he would have some time to give us some feedback on that. Now, there might be, let me ask the committee this question. So if we were to ask, would we be willing to pay an hour of his time to review the contract and give us some feedback if it were a for charge consulting fee? Because they are a consulting company, so I want to be sensitive to their time. And he did help us with the grant proposal, so I want to be careful how much we ask that's not on the clock. And I can't remember, Tom, you were, I think, part of that conversation. He had quoted us Like, I think, remember, we had Recreation had agreed to pay for up to like
Mm.
380 or something. I thought the price was.
Yeah, something like that.
Like, it was probably 100 or a little bit over 100 an hour. Something like that. So would the committee be comfortable if we, ask for feedback in that way and paying for a consultant to give us some feedback?
Well, do you want to do that before I thought we discussed yesterday to contact the people that pulled the bid.
Yeah, I think it's a secondary thing. And
I would agree, depending on the information we get from that survey, Survey Monkey, or calling up.
Yep.
uh,
Okay.
it
So
might be-
let's put that in the back pocket then.
I like the idea, but I think we can get, I don't think we need to go to him.
Yeah.
If we get the same feedback from all of them.
Yep, no,
and-
I think you're right. And I think, Bella, to your point, and I just attended a little seminar on this today about client satisfaction and how important it is to pick up the phone. You can do Survey Monkey all you want, but picking up the phone and really talking to someone really gives you insights that you might not get from a survey. So thank you very much, Bella, for making that suggestion. So I think let's do that, and we'll pocket the other idea for now. And then there's this. So we still want to circle back to the feedback. So then I was thinking, because I have to usually let things percolate for me to really formulate my thoughts, and it came down to this. So if we can procure the engineering services separate, and the other idea was sometimes you can purchase items like lights for a ball field through the Mass State Procurement. It's an approved vendor list. And so it's an approved list. So they're already guaranteeing you're getting the lowest price. That means you don't have to go out to bid for that item. Is there a chance that there's a vendor that sells bridge kits on the state procurement site where we could buy the bridge directly from that vendor? And this wasn't an option. We didn't really know about this option. And I was like, well, how does that relate to the procurement levels? If it's over 50,000, you have to go to bid. That eliminates that requirement. So that was an interesting thought. And I am working to get a hold of that list to see if we can figure that out. And it might be something we can talk to DCR Parks and Rec side, because they put in trails and bridges all the time. So they may be able to easily direct us to something that would help us streamline this process. If we were able to do that and procure the engineering services and they weren't too expensive, then what's stopping us from using the Student Conservation Corps to put the bridge kit together? It's the same concept of using Assabet Valley students who are being used to build the addition on the senior center. So I ran that idea by Tim, and he's like, yeah, that's you can have that conversation.
Mhm.
So that might be an option too, which would eliminate the need for the bid. Because if all we're doing in the bid is going out to bid and saying who wants to be the project manager and the labor for the installation, we already had that taken care of with the Student Conservation Association, who we were on their list this year. So it might mean that we don't get it done this year, but that we have to, we could maybe get on their list early spring. But they liked this project. They thought it was right up their alley. And, we had already scoped it out. I think they run a flat fee of $10,000, and you get them for 10 days and you have to provide lodging. But we already included that lodging and budget by using for our application with the ARPA funds. And we had already explored an option to have them stay at the Knobscot camping reservation, which is the camping site, which is right up the road. Like it's 10-15 miles, and they have cabins there. So they could stay there for a couple weeks, because they tend to camp on whatever site they're working. That's not going to work in this case. But anyway, that was what we had figured out. So we could go back to that plan if all these other things were to work out and the engineering costs were fine. Because when we initially quoted, that's when I spoke with VHB when we were putting the Mass Trails grant together. And I said, can you give me a ballpark of what engineering costs would be if we got this bridge kit right? And you guys needed to do the assessment and make sure everything was in line, because that bridge kit comes with stamped engineering design, right? Physical engineer stamps. So he quoted about 9,500 or 10,000 or something. So we had some budget in for engineering services. So anyway, bottom line is there may be another way. We're exploring that other way. It's just going to take some time to figure it out. The timeline is, we want to keep pressing and moving forward as quickly as possible and efficiently as possible, doing everything correctly, of course, but we do need to make sure that the funds are allocated before the end of 2024 and spent by 2026, I think is how that works out. So I know we're far away from that, but when you think about it, when you stop doing work after November and the winter doesn't really count, then you really only have, the rest of, let's say, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, 7 months this year. And then I don't know when they get started next year. So say another 7 months. It's not a lot of time when you break it down like that. Sound good? So we'll keep plugging away, and next week we'll meet with them, and I'll reach out and let you guys know when the site visit will be. So whoever wants to come can, and we'll go from there. So now if we could spend a few minutes talking about what we want our question or two to be and wordsmith it so that the committee is comfortable with what we say, that would be great. And I don't know if, I said SurveyMonkey, and now I'm thinking maybe we just put it in an email and send them out an email and say, hey, look, this is what we're looking for. And another thing, to Bella's point, is that webinar at the customer service experience workshop I attended was they focused on asking somebody a question as to like why. You can do that, but you really want them to know why you're asking, right? Frame it, give a little context. So they're more likely to provide an answer if they know why you're seeking the information. So, perhaps we can frame it in a way that is, it's going to be compelling enough to. Not everyone will provide feedback, but I guarantee you if there were 26 vendors that will at least get, my guess will be we'll at least get 5 and at least 2, maybe. So best guess is 5, at least 2. Does anyone want to wager numbers for feedback? It's fun. What do you say, Tom? What do you
I
think?
say 5.
You say 5?
Mm-hmm.
Sati?
3.
Hmm?
3.
8? 3? Okay. And Bella?
Let's go 10. Double it. I don't know. Let's be optimistic here.
I like it. See, okay, good. All right, let's see how that works out. All right, so what's our question? Okay, so we kind of talked a little bit about this. We talked about I'm gonna just throw out some ideas. So so the basic question, why, did you not submit a bid?
That's why you have to tell them why we're asking. You just said that. So the very first statement is.
No, I know. I'm throwing out some ideas for questions, and we'll wordsmith and frame it. So we'll make it better. So why did you not submit a bid? What about
part of the project was what part of the project was most concerning?
Okay, everyone throw out something.
What do you look for when accepting a bid?
What do you look for when you accept the so we accept the bid, so you're trying to say, what do you look for when you look for a bid to bid on, to submit a proposal for?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
That's what I mean.
Okay. So what part of it was most concerning? Why did you not submit a bid, and what do you look for when you did decide to submit a proposal?
What is the project complex? So complexity of the project.
What about the project was, did you see as with what? Okay. All right, so context, why are we looking for this? So we want to keep it short, but we want to give, like, I think if we tell a little story and we need to pull on some heartstrings without singing a sad song, but like, being real, we want to reach them as humans, like Trails Committee trying to do this project, and it's a really good project. It's been in the works for 10 years, it's a dangerous section of road. We really need a bridge here. We want to make this work. What is it, we need your feedback to kind of make this. So, can you take a minute to give us some perspective? Does that pull on your heartstrings?
Maybe also like touch on the fact that we were disappointed that nobody showed up as well. I don't know, just kind of
You
sink
could
it in a little bit.
say because the site visit was mandatory. And
The mandatory
and there
site
was a
visit.
scheduling conflict. Is that why you also did not bid?
Was it because of the fake snowstorm?
Well, but again, if it's mandatory and they couldn't go, they're automatically disqualified if that's how they read it.
Right, but we also put in there, if you can't contact us, but no one did, right? If you can't make it. But yeah, so was the mandatory site visit
We don't
issue?
want a lot of questions. I think.
No, I know,
3,
we're just
4
spitballing all of our questions so that we can narrow down what we really want to get at. So it's like a brain dump, right? And then we'll come back and say, yay, no, yay, no. And about the disappointed, I don't want to shame them. And I also don't want to tell them how, that we didn't have anyone show up, because nobody really knows that, right? Except for one company and anyone who watches this video.
We should not be like seem like bending backwards, kind of,
Yeah,
So
and we don't want to appear desperate or
yeah,
pathetic,
yeah, exactly.
even though I want to shed a tear. It was just a lot of work, people, right? So many hours. I didn't even track time on that, but I mean, we met every day in January. I mean, every Monday in January. And there's so much back and forth, and anyway.
We already wrote, right, a scheduling conflict or something. We
Yeah.
wrote, right? Okay, that's good.
Okay, so what if we so do we think 1 or 2 questions? I think we could probably get away with 2 questions.
I would 3 or 4 would be the max. 4
Yeah.
would be the max.
Okay, so the most important thing is we want to know why they didn't bid. So so do we say, we're reaching out because we're reaching out because you pulled the bid, or you pulled the project, after reviewing the I don't know. I think it might be just like, why didn't you not spit a bid in the project?
You could just say, what part of the project, did you determine that you did not want to go forward?
I like that one.
What part of the project, or what part of the project
Made
caused
you not
you
want to bid on this, to submit a bid,
caused you to
not submit a bid?
not submit a bid?
Is there one thing that we did not include the bid that would have made it? Was there anything missing from our from our requirements?
It's anything missing from the requirements. I think it's what would you have liked to have seen that would have what could have been included that would have
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
been included that would have
What would make the bid attractive to you? What?
Oh, yeah, there you go. What would make the proposal more attractive to
What
you?
more attractive to?
What would the project, what would make
Yeah,
the
project.
more attractive to you and motivate you to bid or something like that? I liked the question. So it's like, what part of the project caused you not to submit? What part of the project was most concerning? So maybe what part was there a project component, that a piece of the project that you didn't?
that you weren't comfortable with.
Yeah. All right. So if we were to change, what would you recommend? Is that something we want to hear from them? Like, so we said, oh, what would you make more attractive? So that's the same question. If we changed one thing, or if we changed, the bid, something like, what would make it more attractive to you? Okay. What else? We've got the sense of what we want to say. So now our context, just like a small brief couple sentences that I struggle with brief because I feel like more is more, but it's not. So, because we already put in there in the description, what this was. It was a critical, it was closing a critical loop, and part of 3 trails, regional trails, was already in there for summary. So what is it that we want to say? This is an important project for the trails community. Impacting 3 regional trails.
I mean,
Making it safer crossing, is that important?
I mean, for the people that didn't bid, why are we adding that?
We're trying to provide context and background. So why is it important to us? Why we want to know from them?
Yeah, you could say that this bridge allows the final piece of connecting 3 trails. Yeah, that should be good.
Safe connection to the train.
Important connection off of a dangerous section of road. So it's important to us in the community. And your feedback will help us
To modify the bid.
shape, I don't know, help us
To move forward, period.
Move forward. Yeah,
move forward.
that's the best. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think we want to probably be careful, like your feedback will help us revise the bid, because then that could get into who's,
Yeah.
if we took one person's feedback and then the bid was designed that way, then did that cause us
Yeah.
to create a favoritism? So keeping it vague. Okay. So there's enough to go on there. I will draft a couple things and send it off to, do you guys agree, like just having a quick email and see if they could reply to, rather
Mhm.
than a SurveyMonkey? Sometimes if you do a click, people don't have time to click 3 times. And if you go into a SurveyMonkey and then they're like, oh, whatever. So if they can just hit send on an email, it might be easier. So I take back what my initial thought was. SurveyMonkey. You guys good with it? Just an email?
That'd be
Okay.
good.
All right, great. So we'll try to get that out this week while it's hot. Well, hot in our minds. Nobody else's minds. It's hot. So anything else on that? Thank you for your help working through that. Okay, so next on the agenda is Earth Day cleanup. So, okay, a couple things here is I reached out. So the story is Catherine Parent is a program coordinator for DCR Division Watershed. She has a program, a series of hikes and stuff. And on April 22nd on Earth Day, she's organizing groups in the community to meet at 9/11 Field and grab trash bags, similar to what DPW and Rotary does. And they are going to disperse and clean up the trails and areas around that trail system. So the trails themselves are fine. There may be some water, trash along the edge, but there's nothing on 9/11 typically that needs a lot of cleanup. So I reached out after our last conversation and asked her if she would be comfortable, and I did some scoping. There is trash in the corners of some of the reservoirs, so Route 85 is a big one. I did some surveying this weekend. There might be some stuff on Middle Road. There's definitely stuff at our Peninsula Trail. So right as you go into park at that intersection off of the causeway, it's not in the water necessarily, but that entire little area is kind of like just soft. There's a lot of trash that comes off of, I'm assuming cars are throwing it. So there's a lot of cleanup that can be done there. That does not involve getting in the water. And then on the opposite side, there is some in the water. So she gave us permission. I told her I'd be comfortable going in the water. I have a wetsuit, so I'd just be warmer. And so I would need someone to be with me. If we separate, I just need to tag team, because I would need to toss it to people or whatever. So if I think the committee, most everybody said they were available on the 22nd, including Will. Now Will is part of Rotary, and Rotary is sponsoring with DPW the Earth Day. So he said it was okay, I think, that he join us on this effort. But I did tell Catherine that because of the existing program with DPW and Rotary, that we didn't want to, we could maybe get some people to help us, but we couldn't, we weren't going to be able to really broadcast and do a huge publicity because we'd be overlapping on an existing known town program. And we want to be really careful about doing that. So I think with trails, we can focus on this piece. So if you guys are open to that on the 22nd, we'll get started, like 9 to 12 if you're good. And we'll, before that date, come up with a little game plan, and we can all divide and conquer, and someone can work with me on my area, and then we can.
Can anyone from outside,
Pardon?
can anyone from outside join us to do the cleanup without
Can who?
any?
Can
My
anyone?
wife and
Of course, yes. All spouses are welcome. And this isn't exclusive. So if you have friends in their neighborhood
Yeah,
that you
that's
know
right.
will want to help, I just don't want to detract too much from, DPW's initiative and Rotaries. But yeah, I said we could probably get a few people to help us. That's a great idea.
So
And
how
we
many
might be
people
able to-
how many people were we expecting at 9/11?
I don't know. I mean, she's reached out to Marlboro and to Westboro and to Northboro. So there could be a good number of people. They're providing trash bags too. So we just, and they'll come by, and they'll just need to know where we are so that they can pick up the trash bags. But, Tom had a good idea about going to the time that the point at off of Route 30 at the other end of the causeway near Framingham Road, that area, we can look at fishing line and stuff like that we typically do. Speaking
Yep.
of fishing line, have we recycled our fishing line?
Well, last year I brought it down to, yes, to a recycling place.
Awesome. So I have a
I
recycling.
haven't looked since the late fall.
Yeah, I have one of them that it was falling off at sign location, so I've got to reattach it. And then I've noticed a couple of them are missing their lids. So the importance of the lid is to prevent cavity nesting birds from going in there and creating a nest, because, and there's, all sorts of, if people are using it properly, there's fishing line in there that will put the bird at risk. So I need to swing by Lowe's. Does the committee, are you guys okay? It's like a couple dollars for those lids. Can I authorize a purchase for those lids?
Yep, yeah, that's fine.
Great. So yeah, so anyway, so I'll send out some emails coordinating that. And if you're around, that'd be great. Remember that I donated some reachers, those trash picker-uppers. So we have, the Trails Committee has some of those, so we can use those as well. Yeah, so that should be great. That's nice. And then something that came up, a Boy Scout Troop 92 is working with Stewardship to do a town forest sign install. And one of their troop leaders noticed a tree down on 9/11 field. So a 9/11 trail. So we should get back there and evaluate that tree and see if it's something we need help with.
Yes,
Because,
I can tell you right now. Yes,
oh,
it's a
you've been
big
back there?
tree, big tree at 9/11.
How big? Okay, so we purchased a little hand, oh, there's a hand raised.
No, there's no hand.
Oh, it's Will. He came in. Sorry, Will, I haven't seen you. So we, yeah, our little, so it might not be our little chainsaw will work.
No, there's some good. So if you actually go to 911 and you're going behind the playing surface, I call it, you do counterclockwise. So you take it left, follow the water along your left hand side.
Yeah.
That's the part where you have a couple of big trees that are down.
Okay, so it might be also I could connect with one of the scouts and because they said if we needed some help, they might be able to help. So I can see if there's some assistance there that we can get, because we are doing, and this is later on, we're going to be doing a hike there on the 7th. So can we get around it, Tom? What do you have to jump it, or what do you do?
You have to go probably maybe 10-15 feet off the trail to cross over a section that you can go over.
Oh, it was that big. Okay.
There's a lot, and there's a lot of branches. A lot of thing came down right there. It's not just one big log across the trail.
Okay. So
I should have took a picture.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's gonna have to be dealt with, and if it's big enough, then we might need to ask DPW, because
If we get the Boy Scouts and one of them have the big saw, it should be fine.
yeah, one of the parents, you mean, not the kids, just
Yeah.
for record's sake. Hey, Will, how are you? Thanks for joining us. You're on mute.
I'm good.
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we're just talking about the 911 loop has a big tree down, so we need to fix it. All right, so let's see,
Probably brought down by ticks.
because that's gonna, May 7th, that's gonna impact that day, so we'll have to figure that out. Okay, so next up is the Choate Fun 22 hike series, the bench and the interpretive signage. We'd made some assignments last time, so we can touch base on that. The update for the hike series. So Debbie Costine I reached out to Debbie, who we had, when we put together the Choate Fun grant, we had reached out to certain people and asked if they'd be interested in participating as a hike leader for a stipend. And so she is going to host a walk in the woods, a stroll in the woods on May 7th. That's a Sunday at 1 p.m. Now, I just so happen to be out that weekend. I'm doing some leadership training for AMC. So my ask is there anyone on the committee who can be available on Sunday, May 7th at 1 p.m. to just be the trails representative? And you'll help with, registration and check-in, and I'll set you up with success, and you'll have everything you need. So there's no worries on that front. But
I know
When's
for
that,
sure I
Sunday?
cannot. I'm traveling that day.
I can do.
I'm sorry.
I
Sati,
can-
you can, okay, thank you. And if anyone wants to join Sati, you're welcome to. Thank
May
you.
7th at what time?
It's 1 p.m. on Sunday, the 7th. It's going to be at 9/11. And it's going to be capped at about 12 to 14 people. There's a registration link. And so this will also serve. So I need a point of clarification. Last time we met and we were talking about Southborough Youth and Family Services Mental Health Awareness Month, and Mary Ellen Dugan, who was going to join us. You may have seen the correction in the minutes. So I kept calling her affiliation was Southborough Youth and Family Services, and it's not. She is the wellness director for the Northborough, Southborough, the public schools system. So she had reached out, and I just got all the entities confused because she had copied someone on the Board of Health, and I linked it to Southborough Youth and Family Services in my head. So this hike is going to qualify as part of Wellness Week, which is the first week in May, something that she's put together, and it's to highlight the wonderful things you can do in the local towns to stay well and healthy and promote healthy. So we put together the hike will qualify and be part of that Wellness Week. They're going to start blasting it this week, so we'll start publicizing at the end of the week. And I'll send a registration link to everybody. Debbie has already looked at the information and confirmed the details. So that's exciting. And then along those lines, we had reached out to Emma Bartolini, who had also agreed to be a part of the Choke Fund grant and do a Yoga on the Trails series. So she wasn't available last week. I met with her this week, and she is going to be doing a series of 4 Yoga on the Trails events. So we initially had proposed, I'm gonna have to look at my notes. Hold on just a second. We had proposed we're gonna do some yoga on the trail with kids, some with adults. And she has asked, because she's currently already working with the rec department and she does a lot of programming in town anyway. But she has found a need with teens. And a lot of requests. So there's a lot of attention. She's doing a program already for littles, like younger children and adults. So she wants to focus on an opportunity to have a yoga series with teens, a session or 2 with teens. So what we've determined of the 4, what we'll do is, let me just see if I wrote that down differently. We're going to do 1 teen session, 2 adult only sessions. And, or maybe was it 2 and 2? Hold on. Ooh, now I'm gonna have to ask. Because I wrote down 1 adult, 1 family, 2. Yeah, I think that's right. 1 family yoga, 2 adults only, and then 1 teens. So it'll be 4 sessions. So she's provided some dates and times. So we need to figure that out tonight on what we want to offer based on what she suggested or her availability. So I'm going to throw out some dates and let's go through that. So actually, I think it might be easier if you guys see this screen. So let me share this screen. Okay, let me know when you see dates for yoga on the trails.
Mhm.
You see it?
Yes.
I'll make it bigger. Okay. And so one idea she had was, in the event that it rains, we were going to have a rain date, but that gets kind of messy. So she was thinking that she would ask, Rec has a room upstairs that she currently uses for yoga. And there's also Theracopia. She does a program for them. So they may be open to sharing their space if available, if it's a rain date, if it's raining that day, because you can't do yoga in the rain. So what she has here is, for the adult only classes, we can bring the capacity up to 20 or 25. The family yoga, let's keep it at 12 pairs. Now, I don't know what 12, I think it's 12 families is what she means when she says 12 pairs, I think. Or if a family has multiple kids, that's okay. I don't know exactly what she means by 12 pairs. And then teens cap at 12. So that's where our numbers will be. And then location. So she was thinking, so she needs something flat, right? And it has to be, if you think about it, we're doing in May and early June, depends. And the grass will be growing. So it has to be well maintained, or we have to be able to get out there and maintain it before the class, because, and just, some of our trails are not on a regular schedule that we can control. So it's something that we need to consider. So she was doing some thinking, and I want to hear from the committee and your thinking about it. It has to be big enough if we're going to have a class of 25 to be able to spread out and feel comfortable. So she was thinking off of Deerfoot, right at that spillway. That's a nice little manicured piece of lawn there, and the trail cuts through there. So that is one option. And that's actually always maintained. I don't even think that's, sometimes doesn't, I think it might be maintained by the homeowner, but so that's one option. The only concern I have with that is we don't have parking for 25 people along Deerfoot, unless that's kind of a tricky spot. So it's narrow road. People park there all the time to go fishing, but it's kind of hard to get out of there. So there may be a concern with parking if we do it along there. But you know what? If they parked on Parkerville and just walked that little section of trail to get to the other side, they could do that. Because Parkerville has the soccer field on that one side, and then all that parking on the street. There's actually assigned parking. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that might be one way to get around the parking issue, because I wouldn't want 25 people parking on that street. It's just a narrow road, and I feel like it might create a safety hazard. Does anyone else share that concern or have any alternative thoughts on it?
No, that sounds fine. I don't.
I like that area, but I think we might have to ask them to park and walk. How
Which is-
bad would that be? That's not a long walk.
No, just tell them if you get there early enough, you park on Deerfoot. If you don't, park on Parkerville and go across the trail.
Okay,
You just tell them that.
okay. All right,
There's no conflicting recreation going on, is there,
where?
at this place that you're proposing?
Oh,
There's no-
no, this isn't actually, so there's only, it's right next to the open channel. There isn't, it's not a field, it's just a grassy area that's flat.
Okay,
Yeah, but to your point, if that field is being used and there's cars parked along Parkerville, that's the only other potential issue. The other thing she had mentioned, there's another location. What did she say? Oh, she said she would be okay with a little walk, but not a big one because of the time. Oh, or also accessibility. She was concerned that if someone had to walk a long way and they had any physical issues, that would be an issue. So that might be taken care of if they can, if you have, we could say, any kind of mobility issues, get there earlier so you can park on Deerfoot and not have to walk. That could be one way. Because I did suggest, I was like, is there anywhere, the access road at 911, like at the end of that access road towards the peninsula, like that little island area, that's kind of very pretty. Will, that's where we did our forest bathing. And so I don't know if we could all stretch out there, and her concern was the walkability or, having to walk out there. So that might not work. Does anyone else have an idea? She also said Middle Road, that might be a good option. Middle Road, that field, I think we would need to get permission from Fay School. But that field that is never really used, that has soccer fields in it. I mean, soccer,
Mhm.
golf.
that
courses
would be,
and
a nice area, yeah.
Yeah,
But on the flip side, do we need permission because the trail is along the water's edge? And if that's where we do it,
yeah, I think it would, if we had 25 people, if that were one of the sessions there, it would probably escape into it might be a courtesy to say, hey, we'll be doing this program on this date. Any sports issues, I don't know if they use that field or not. But it might just be a courtesy to say, hey, we'll be on the trail, but it's gonna extend out into the field, any issues.
yeah, that should be fine. That's a good location.
And I think she said she'd only want to keep it to 1 or 2 locations, so that we're not moving all around and we kind of create a rhythm of sorts. So
Is Constitution Drive, is that location, is that good or?
yeah, so Constitution Drive, so there, I don't know that road or that place as well. And you wouldn't want to go in that, you wouldn't want to be in the trail. But is there a field there? Is that what you're talking about? Liberty Field?
Mhm.
No, just around the water, but yeah, it is difficult.
Oh, see, I like the water idea too, and being but I think you get that at Deerfoot, right? You get the views of
Yeah.
the open channel right there. And yeah, so okay, if we're comfortable with those 2 spots, then we can probably make that work. Again, parking on any of them are a little iffy, so I'm a little concerned about 2025. Maybe because it could be wildly popular, right? People would be like, yeah, yoga on the trails. I mean, this might be very popular. So if we had 25 single people show up, that's 25 cars. That's a mess.
So-
What about Chestnut Hill? That's not feasible?
Not Chestnut, but what about Breakneck?
Breakneck will be.
Breakneck, well, the issue would it be mowed flat enough?
The
Right,
trails are generally kept in good condition. But the flat part, I don't know that we have, right? Because it's hilly
also-
going up.
And nesting birds, and yeah, there's no wheelchair access. there.
There's no, yeah, well, there's no that, and there's no flat surface large enough for 25 people to sprawl out. So yeah, good thoughts.
Right.
All right, well, I guess we're back there.
So
So the
Deerfoot and the other one is
What was that?
two locations, right? Deerfoot and
Yeah, Deerfoot, off of Deerfoot, and then off of Middle Road. And let me just pull up. Can you still see my screen?
yes.
And you can see Google. Oh, look at there. Okay, so yeah, so this is where the field is, right? In here. Because doesn't this trail, yeah, goes to Parker. This is where the field is in here.
Just put it on Google Earth, go down to layers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's where it is. See?
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you. That's much easier to see. So technically, there is some parking on the side here. I mean, 25 would be a little tough, but I mean, if they pull off the road, I think, for an hour, it's not gonna be the end of the world. Right? And we might, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we'll get in trouble or not for something that unintended consequences. But while I have this up, I just want to show us Deerfoot. So here, so they could park here along Parkerville, right? And then you just walk along here to here. Or you park
We need
on
to alert
Deerfoot. And this is the area that we were talking about.
Do we need to alert the police?
I was thinking alert the police too, but I'm not sure what they would do because it was nice for they helped us cross the road that time for the hike, but this is more of a park and do yoga. I was wondering
Right,
if there's,
just to let them know what's happening and instead of,
yeah,
yeah,
no, I
they-
think that's the right answer. That's the right thought, is to say, hey, by the way, we're doing this program, so there are going to be some cars parked along the road, and maybe they can just say yay or tell us, flag us if it is a big issue, before we go live. Maybe I'll just reach out and let them know what we're thinking and see if it's any concern of theirs. Yeah. Okay. So that's the locations then. So dates. So it's funny, most dates I'm not available, but there are some that I am. So let's see. And we don't actually we don't have to be there, but it would be nice to have a trails rep, especially the first one. We need someone there. Other ones, once we get started, we should be good. So the first date is Sunday, May 7th. So that's the same date as the hike. And I normally would like to steer away from it, but when I started looking at the other dates, I'm like, maybe the May 7th looks okay. Like we could host two events as long as they're not at the same time. So on the May 7th, like we could do yoga at 11 to 12. Now our hike is 1 to 2, so I wouldn't recommend 12 to 1. So my question to this, if 11 to 12 work, so I would be there if I could, but I'm going to be away. Is there someone who would volunteer and not Sati because he's going to be at the hike at 1? Is there someone else that could be there to help with registration and such, as long as, we set it up in advance and you feel completely, I'll set you up for success and everything would be outlined clearly.
I would volunteer to accompany somebody, but I'm probably not the best person for registering people.
Okay. Let's see, if you could be there and Emma knew that she needed to handle just the check-in,
Yeah,
would that work?
yeah, that worked fine.
Okay, so that's the 7th, a Sunday at 11 to 12.
Okay, and that's, send me where we're gonna be and all that.
Yeah, we'll probably start with Deerfoot, I think. And I'll
Okay,
write Deerfoot. Okay, thank you, Will. And thank you, Sati, for later. Okay. The second option is May 12th, Friday, 4:30 p.m., 5 p.m., or 6 p.m. So at first I was like, no, because it's a Friday. but I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? If 5 or 6, 6 or 7 on a Friday might be unlikely. We'll get in with 4:30. I don't know. I just think Friday's a hard day for anybody. So let's skip it for now, unless I don't hear anyone saying, yeah, I think it's a great day, right? And see what else we got. So Saturday, the 20th, from 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 5 to 6, 6 to 7. So in this time range, I think the 10 to 11 and 11 to 2 are the two better options for timing. Right? I'm away on Saturday, but I'm not away on Sunday. So if I could do something on Sunday, and so we could do both days if we wanted to, is anyone around for a 10 or 11?
I'd be around to accompany, yeah.
Is there anybody else?
I can do it.
No, I'm gonna volunteer for the Sunday, the 21st. I have to double check either 9 or the 10. One or the other.
Okay.
That'll be for the adults only one.
Huh?
That'll be for the adults one.
Oh, so you want the 9 or 10 for the adults?
Or the 10, 11. I can't commit right now.
Oh, okay. She
But-
said she was surprised at how popular 9 a.m. on Sundays
Yeah.
actually was for yoga.
It's a good time. It doesn't ruin your whole day.
Yeah.
So most likely it's gonna be the 9 to 10, but put in parentheses, possibly 10 to 11, and that would be the adult yoga.
Okay. Adult yoga for that date to be confirmed. So someone who on the 20th said they could at 10 or 11. Do you think the earlier one is better, to Tom's point about not blowing up days? I think they might be a little more successful, my random opinion.
Yeah, I think 10 to 11 is,
Yeah. So do you want to do that, Sati, you said?
yeah, I'll do it.
Sati, 10 a.m. Okay. I'm not sure. We haven't figured out except what Tom declared was adults for the 21st. I'm not sure what the other ones, will fill them in a minute. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3. So next option we have, now she's put down the 27th, which is Memorial Day weekend. I'm not going to recommend we do that at all. Are you in agreement?
100%.
Okay, so next up, perfectly timed, June 4th, the Sunday. I cannot do it because I am training for wilderness first aid. But so there's June 4th and then June 11th. I could do June 11th and I haven't done one. So if we want to push and wait until the 11th, I can take that at 10 a.m.
I could do June 4th
Oh,
at either of those times.
oh, okay. Do you want to do 11 to 12, the earlier?
Sure.
Oh, great. Thank you, Bella. Okay. So I think that's number 4. So it'd be number 1 on the 7th, number 2 on the 20th, number 3 on the 21st, and number 4 on the 4th. All right, that's awesome. So now let's figure out which ones we're assigning. So one of the adults is on the 21st. So Sati, would you like a family yoga, or would you like an adult, or would you like teens? Actually, let's think about this for a second. When are teens going to be available? Sports and stuff I want to think about when so I think they're going to be better on a Sunday versus a Saturday, right? And whoever's been sports or had kids, I don't know any of these.
Yeah.
But getting a teen out of bed early. So maybe, I don't know, Sati, what do you think on the 7th? What would you like?
Well, it's fine. I mean, anything.
All right. Let's, so what's the other one on the 4th is 11th? So that's a Sunday too. What do you think, Bella? Do you have a preference on a teens or an adult?
No, I can do either.
honestly, I think you might be great with teens. Do you mind me saying?
That's fine. I mean, I'm closer in age. That's fine.
Maybe that's why I'm saying that. I'm sorry if that's difficult to
No, that's okay. I don't mind.
it's a blessing, right? It's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do Bella and teens on the 4th. And so Sati, do you want a family or do you want a adult?
It's fine. I mean, either way, and adults is fine.
Adults, okay. So Will, are you comfortable with wait, if you do 2 adults with a family?
Yeah, yeah, I'm fine, as long as I get some help on the registration piece.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Oh, wait a minute. So I did that wrong. So we do family here. That was Will. Sati is here. This is adults. Okay. Sati and Tom and Bella. Okay, great. So thank you very much. Now, I do want to just note that as much as I want to be a backup, I am booked for these dates. So I cannot serve as a backup. Actually, Tom, I could probably do it the 21st if I'm not. So if something happens, just let us know well in advance so that we can get a rep there. And it might be that like by the 3rd one, we don't need a rep, so it might be okay. But let's just be mindful of each other's schedule and see if we can make that work. Okay, so thank you. What I'll do next is I will reach out to her, confirm these dates, and then we'll start working on a description. She said it's best because I gave her the heads up. We tend to do, a couple weeks out, we want to start advertising. And she's like, the longer the better, she's found, with reminders. So we'll try to go ahead and get these live next week with a description and have people start signing up. And then we'll manage very closely the reminders, because if the further it out it is, people may not remember. So we'll want to make sure. And we'll have a wait list on each of these as well, so that if people drop off, we can easily add them. And again, I will work with each of you and keep you updated. And I can share my credentials with the Eventbrite, so you can log in and kind of see progress if you want to. I can step us through how to extract registration. I won't leave you on your own, and make sure everyone feels comfortable with what we're doing. And then I'll also reach out before we do any of that to the police, talk to them about the 2 locations we're thinking about and parking considerations, and see if there's anything they have concerns about. And it may be, if they do have concerns, that we have to, pick another location. We'll see what happens there. Okay. All right. So that's that. And so this is part of this will also be the Choate Fund grant, but I reached out to Southborough Youth and Family Service, and we wanted to highlight the Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're starting in May, but even if it goes into June. So they said they were fine with that, and they would help promote the events and stuff. So that's that. Any questions or anything else on that? Okay. The Planet Palooza participation and schedule. So basically the Trails Committee has agreed to pay for 2 nature hikes that are happening on April 30th with the Stewardship Committee. It's Dan Harvey. He's a nature enthusiast and parks guy from years, lots of experience. He did a walk last year in the town forest. So his 2 hikes will count towards our Choate Fund grant as well. We're paying for them, so it's kind of a partnership of sorts. And so with that hike, those 2 hikes, with these 4 series of yoga, and Debbie's hike, and is there something else? The forest bathing from last year. And those hikes qualify and will satisfy our hike series from the Choate Fund grant. So there's that. I know we're getting late, so let's close up, but part of the Choate Fund was also bench, and Will sent some information he did some research on types of benches. Will, do you want to give a quick summary on what that was like and what you're kind of thinking about and what you learned? You there, Will? Will, are you on mute? There you are.
Yeah, I looked online and saw benches from $100 to $1,000. You know, and they come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes and materials as well. Uh, you know, I guess, the question would be, one question would be, what is our budget?
Yes.
And then another question would be, I reached out to Tim Davis and he suggested a couple vendors that he deals with that are on the state list. So I was going to contact them and see what their bench price would be. I guess this is going to go near the reservoir.
We haven't picked a location yet. It's going to require landowner permission and our budget is $500.
Our budget is 500. Well, I'll have to check with these firms. I mean, the advantage of going with the firms, if they're already on the state list, then we'd be fine. I guess, a couple questions.
We'll be fine regardless, just so you
Yeah.
know. We have the authority to purchase. Yeah, I just mean it's nice to use the state list when you need to, but we're not bound by it for any procurement requirements. It's a low enough
Okay.
dollar that we can choose the vendors that we need to. Mhm.
Okay, one question would be, what kind of material do you want?
Yeah.
Another question would be, what kind of placement do you want? Do we want to bury this into, concrete footings or what?
Mm.
And then, I guess your point, Pat, was about loitering. And we want to make sure that we're not encouraging loitering at some sensitive place, right?
Right, strategic location. So, so one of the things is I want to keep it as simple as possible if you're okay with this committee. I don't want to get into concrete footings. It just gets a little complicated. And, if we're talking about putting it around the reservoir, DCR is not going to want us to be pouring concrete into that. So, I was really hoping there's a bench in the town forest that's chained to a tree that works. I think that bench is wood. So there's also a bench in the Templeman Watkins wood, and bench, wood tends to mold over and get slippery, slimy. So stone is probably a better option if we could, or stone or concrete, if we could afford that. Depends on the quotes. And if it's a nice type of stone that's not concrete, that might be, if it's within the environment or within the, it'll look good. So
Okay,
anyone
so
else?
I'll look for concrete and stone.
Yeah. Yep. And if it's stone and if it's one, like, I don't know if it's one piece or if it's multiple pieces, we just need to, wherever we put it, we're going to have to get it there. So we got to think about easy installation. And then if it's stone, I don't think people are going to be picking up stone and walking away with it. They haven't walked away with the stone that's bench that's across from the Burnett mansion. So I think we should be okay not having to chain anything down. But do we want to brainstorm a few ideas for a bench location? Does anyone have any thoughts that come to mind? Some pretty view that you've always thought this would be a perfect place for a bench? 9/11 loop might have.
Yeah, the 9/11 loop would be nice.
Yeah, because that has lots of views of the reservoir.
Mhm.
There's it's a random position, but I don't know if it's good or not, but there is right off of Route 30 at the Causeway, where we installed that trailhead kiosk, the map kiosk at that triangle. So if you walk that trail, just as you're entering in and you kind of swing to it goes in and then it takes a left. There's a little section right up there, and those are some power lines, right? So so it might not be great, but there's a little section right up there that overlooks the reservoir. It also overlooks the causeway, so it's not that wonderful, but it's kind of nice, and it's like up above and around. So that might be something to think about.
I was kind of partial to the Sudbury Trail, where it, let's say a couple 100 meters before it gets to the dam. That's kind of nice area there.
Oh, help me understand where you're at.
Okay, entering from the Route 30 entrance, and then you go
Oh, on
past
the
the
Peninsula Trail?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
just
No.
it looks through the trees down onto the reservoir.
Oh, you mean, is this right across from the pumping station?
Yeah,
Yeah. That is a nice location, and I wonder if they would let us do that. Interesting. So I like that. I like that suggestion.
if we're not pouring concrete and it's not
Yeah.
close to anybody's home.
And they would let us drive
And,
back there to put that in. We could just dump it out.
And right, and or we could use a dolly or something. But you know, the nice thing is it probably wouldn't be a loitering hazard either, right?
So I'm curious if they would mind, it's right next to the pumping station, if that would cause a headache.
I was thinking going further towards the dam than the pumping station, but
Oh, so, okay, so we're not at the right location. So right across from the pumping station is one of the better views along that way, because that's
Oh, okay.
one
Yeah,
time where you
that's
can
fine.
actually see the water.
yeah,
But
okay, I'm sorry. You're
if you
right. You
go
are correct.
further-
You are correct.
There really isn't a place to see the water again.
No.
Oh, wait, well, that mud, you know where it gets really muddy and there's that marsh area on the other side? Does anyone
Yeah.
remember that? Yeah, so,
Is,
Well, you know
Is-
where I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
go
go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you remember, you know, where you're coming to the dam and the big hill that goes down past the dam, right?
from the opposite side. Which side?
Oh, I gotta leave the library. I'm sitting in the library.
Oh, okay.
But no, I'm thinking, you know, where we're gonna put the fence with any fence, right?
Yeah,
200 or 300 meters beyond that towards the dam.
yeah, no, I think I
Maybe
got
we're
you.
talking about the same place. I gotta go.
Okay, I will, thank you for everything. So,
All right.
anyone else have any ideas? We've planted
No.
seeds. Yes, Sati.
Are we allowed? I mean, that's what same thing I was about to say. I mean, are we allowed near the dam? That's a good location though.
Yeah, yeah,
Near the dam, near that gate where we go into our the trail that we cleaned up, right? Where the
oh, at
this-
the point,
yeah,
we cleaned up all the fishing stuff, the fishing,
right.
so somewhere in there.
Yeah.
That's actually a good idea, Sati. I like that, right at the point. I mean, people are already there fishing. It is a beautiful view, and now they'll have a seat. Right? I like that. Put a
And
trash
that's
can
the
there too, and be good. Okay, well, let's think about that. Okay, so we don't have to solve that tonight. And then the other quick question, Bella and Sati, you were tasked with doing some thinking around. Bella, you were flora and fauna on the interpretive sign, and Sati, you were history. Do you guys have anything you'd like to share on that front?
Not like, but I was reading one document on the, and there's not much information on the Southborough Historical Society, but there's a wonderful document, narrative history of Southborough. It's written in 2000, but so there is, I mean, they don't have anything that relates to the trail, but one thing is there, that where the dam stands now, it used to be a Nichols grist mill. There
Yeah.
used to,
Yeah. Where
and
was that?
So they have a picture of that. I can share.
Is it near the trail that we could highlight that?
Right. I mean, that's. Let me share this. Nichols Dam.
All right, I'm gonna do host and panelists and host and panelists. It looks like I needed to set that setting up, so you should be able to share now if you weren't able to before, if it said disabled by
Okay.
host.
Okay. So this thing.
Oh, yeah, Where's that? Oh.
That's
where
on the
Spindle
dam, they said
now
to-
stands?
Yeah,
What? Wait a minute. Really? Huh. That's actually really interesting. So we are already going to be putting some signs up on the Peninsula Trail for this for the Mass Trails grant. So can you park this? Because we may want to incorporate this. Sati, this is a really good find.
Sounds like a good idea.
I think people would really like to see this, and we can get a little history around it for sure.
yeah, that in that document, I'll share that also. And why I like that document, because there's a mention of my house,
Oh, really? How old is your house? Is your house
100 years old, yeah, because they say there are only 3 houses in Southborough that are like Dutch colonial type.
Yep.
So mine is one.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So, yeah, I think you're onto something. So if you could find something, I think the idea about, highlighting history is that it's going to be somewhere near the trail, similar to the historical markers that, Alex Flynn put up, and he was highlighting what you could see in front of it, which was the Burnett House, right? So keep researching and see if there's something, like an industry that Southborough used to have that's near a trail. We could highlight some piece of that, right? So that's great. So awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, and do park that, like bookmark that. And we do have the OneDrive. If you wanted to put any resources, create a folder called like Southborough history or whatever, and just park whatever you're finding. Create a document with links so that we can refer to it later when we come up with that signage. You would have been doing all the legwork, some of the legwork for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Bella, do you have anything for us on flora and fauna? No pressure.
I honestly did forget, but it's on my to-do list. I
Okay.
have it marked down as a reminder to get done before our next meeting.
Okay, that's great.
I was thinking along the lines of maybe oaks.
Like featuring different types of oak trees.
Yeah, oaks and like acorns, and just how they reproduce and how beneficial they are to ecosystems.
Awesome. That's
Yeah,
great.
just kind of how they're like an overlooked tree a little bit, and just
Yeah.
focus on their importance and our ecosystem as a native plant.
Okay, that sounds good. And I think your challenge will be is making sure we find a location where there are some oaks, and it can be kind of like at a trailhead or sorts, and you say, okay, this is a white oak, or this is a red oak, or whatever the oaks are. See if you can go find them, right? So you have leaves and identifiers. That's actually interesting. So awesome. I love it.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much. So next is, let's just do a quick meeting check. And I think if you guys are open to doing, and sorry to do this to us, but we are trying to move forward like towards the end of April. Would we be able to do another meeting so we can regroup on and ideally, like what I'd like to do is once we finalize these hikes, we get our signage kind of going. I'd like to submit a thank you letter to the Choate Fund for thanking them, but maybe when we get the signs done and stuff, but thanking them for the opportunity to fund another project of ours this year. And so, and I do just want to comment that they have another grant cycle going this year, but I didn't push it for us to do anything because we have so many other initiatives right now that I think we're in, it's okay to skip a year. So are you guys comfortable that the applications typically due by the end of the month, 4/30? So we've done it for the last 3 or 4 years. I can't remember exactly how many, but because of our initiatives that we currently have going on, I'm comfortable, skipping a year and refocusing next year. Does that sound
Agreed. I think that's a good idea.
Sounds good.
so much going
Sounds
on?
good.
We're only human. Okay, so who's available when the week of maybe the week of the 24th? And I guess one question is, do we have, is there a benefit to meeting sooner? Is there, because we're going to have some decisions to make about bids and stuff. And we have a site visit. We're gonna try to get scheduled for next week, which next week is the 10th.
The site
So-
visit is with the engineering VHB, right?
Yeah, but
Right.
I bet if we give them time to do their thing, I personally don't think we're gonna be able to go to bid next Friday either. That we've got to give some of this a little bit more time to percolate and sort out. So are you guys comfortable if we're not gonna make next Friday's deadline for the bid either?
Oh, that's, yes, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, very much comfortable.
Well, the question for you is, the biggest, the tall stake in the tent is that quote for the engineering.
Yeah,
So if
so,
we don't have it by the 24th, is there a reason why we have to meet on the 24th?
oh, I'll have it by then, because he said he could get that turned around, in a week.
All right, if that's true, then we can meet on the
If
24th.
I don't have it in hand, I'll call, we'll reschedule,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
but by then, ideally by then, we would know if we can find a bridge on Combis. If we can we'll get a quote from engineering. We'll be able to figure out if we can do this project outside of a bid. We would have gotten feedback from our bidders. We'll have a ton of information to be able
Yes.
to regroup and say, okay, new plan or
Right.
more information.
Got it.
So
That's good.
how about the 27th of April,
What day of the week is that?
a Thursday?
Thursday.
That sounds good.
Okay. All right, so 7:30 good for everybody on the 27th. Okay, sounds good. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second
that-
that.
Was that Will
Yes, it was.
and Tom seconded? Okay. And then let me know that you agree. Satyendra Sharma,
Yes.
Isabella Bogdansky,
Yes.
Will Warren,
Yes.
Tom McCoolier,
Yes.
and Kat McKee. Great, thank you. And Sati, let the minutes reflect, I think Will came in around 8:15.
Yep.
Yep, awesome. All right, everyone, thank you so much. This is great work
Thank
and
Hey,
appreciate all your
Catherine, before
support.
you adjourn, are you gonna let us know when that site visit is for
Yes,
VHB?
I'll email you. Yeah.
Okay.
Will do.
Great. Thank you.
All right, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good night.
You too.
Right.